guys, welcome back for another Full Joy Mom video. In today's video, this video is less about resources I want to share with you and more about encouraging you that you can teach your child to read. So if you would like more encouragement and a little bit on the resources that I've used to teach my 4 kids to read, then stay tuned.
You're watching Full Joy
Well, if you are new to the channel, hi, my name is Dawn Bree and I am the mom to Jackson, Fiona, Eliza, and Charlotte, and they are ages 7, 5, 4, and 3. I was homeschooled myself, except for 1st and 2nd grade where I learned to read, but the rest of the time I was homeschooled. I've always homeschooled my kids, and I have started everyone reading around the age of like 3.5 to 4 years old. It's been a little bit different depending on personalities. And when I started teaching my son, who's the oldest, to read, like it was intimidating, but I think because I saw my mom homeschool us, I knew that I could do it. But I was like, okay, I learned to read in a public school system, and no, in a private school system, whatever. It doesn't really matter. When I learned to read, I did not learn to read well enough that it carried me through my life. I was never a strong reader out loud. I'm still not a great speller, but I have gotten to learn to read all over again, because see, here's the thing, it doesn't matter what your education level is. Like, it truly does not matter whether you know the difference between a short and a long vowel or not. Like, I don't care if you can spell supercalifragilisticexpialidocious, or whether you're like, is that there or there, which is which, is that this or that. Like, you can find resources that will give you step by step and empower you to teach your child to read, and it's really not as hard as you would think. So moving into the resources, let's see what I chose, because sorry, I'm so distracted by the fact that there is a toad in the backyard. I don't usually hear toads. I'm used to the birds, but we got a toad croaking back there, so slightly distracted. That's fun. Anyways, so when I set out to teach my child to read, I knew that because of the fact that I truly, honestly did not know the difference between short and long vowels. I didn't know any of the phonics. I was a sight reader, I guess. Like, I really don't, that's how I read. I just looked at words and read what I saw. And I couldn't tell you why anything was what it was. You know what I mean? Like, if I would have tried to sit down with my son and teach him what I knew, I would be like, well, I don't know why say says say and not yeah. Like, I have no idea. So I needed a curriculum that was going to really be step by step, give me lots of tools and resources, and I did a good bit of research and came to Sing, Spell, Read, and Write. I've liked it so much that I've never switched. So I really don't have an opinion for you about any other curriculums. I just know that this is what worked for us. It really seemed to hit on every facet of what I needed to teach my kids. But something that I have found is that even though this curriculum is amazing, and I'm now on to teaching my 3rd child to read with it, I still modify. Like, something that's so cool about being a homeschooler or just teaching your child to read at home, maybe before you're sending them off to school, is that you make it work for you. And if something doesn't work, you switch it up. Like, I'll give you an example. So since I started my son at 3.5 to read, I mean, he was reading almost fluently by 4. You can really teach children at any level, whether it's their strength or not, how to read. But so he's 4 years old, and we go through all of the kindergarten stuff, and we get through to 1st grade. I believe, I'd have to look back, I think we started 1st grade when he was 5 with reading. And he had no desire to write anything down. Like, he just did not care. He didn't want to hear about spelling, nothing. He wanted to read and learn every rule there was. So I get to the back of this book. This one is the Raceway book. This is the 2nd book for 1st grade with Sing, Spell, Read, and Write. And towards the back, there is all kinds of writing pages. Look like that, okay? And he is like, I don't want anything to do with that. Well, we skipped through it. I literally had him write nothing at all. He read all the words to me. We worked on all the rules. We read all the cute books that come along with it, and we just made it work for us. Then as he got older and it was like, okay buddy, you need to learn how to write now, we're going to work on this, I took him back to the same exact book and we were able to reinforce those principles. So just because you're teaching your child to read like maybe early, you know, in comparison to what some people's standards are, it doesn't mean that they're going to miss something. It doesn't mean that they're going to, you know, because a mistake that I made is I started identifying my son as he was ready to read at 3 years old. And so I was asking, you know, even different homeschool, I met with like, he was like the dean or something of a homeschool online curriculum. And he pretty much was like, oh, just let him run around in the woods till he's 7 years old. And while I am all for outside play and I am all for learning through play, and that, you know, unschooling type of thing, I am also for like the fact that you need to identify when your kids are ready for things and do it. So I'm really glad that like sort of everyone's advice of, you know, so I was like, I feel like I'm ready to start something with him. And I was asking, do you think he's ready to start school? And they were responding by saying, no, he's definitely not, because then when he their reasoning was, well, when he gets older, if he's too far ahead and he goes to upper, like higher advanced math, his brain won't be developed enough and he won't be ready. So I was like, okay, I guess, all right, I won't start anything. But really what I was asking is, can I start to educate him on certain subjects like reading in certain areas that he's ready for those things and hungry for that learning? And the answer to that question should absolutely be yes. If your kid is starting to ask you about reading, then start. Like, something that is so important to me in my homeschool life is to teach my children to love to learn. For me, it's less about jamming their heads full of facts and more about getting them to fall in love with the idea of learning. I want them to learn for life. I don't want them to ever stop learning. You know, we grow through learning, and so I want them to just really see the joy that's in it. And I'll actually, okay, so since we're on a rabbit trail, we might as well just keep going. So I know that in the United States and in many, you know, first world countries, it is technically a privilege to go to school. It's a right, or I'm sorry, it's technically a right to go to school, right? Certain states, you know, United States of America, there are laws against not sending your kids to school. You have to educate your children. That's a right that every American citizen has. I would assume a lot of other countries are similar. But the way that I like to look at it in my house is I actually teach my kids that learning in school is a privilege, because if you were to like take a broader view and look at the entire world, school is actually a privilege. There are many places in the world where children do not have the money, the resources, their families cannot afford to send them to school. And so I don't teach kids with attitude problems. I don't teach kids that are being ungrateful. Since I'm starting them early, it gives me this ability to do this thing where I'll literally be like, okay, so I do reward systems for school. When you finish things, you get a reward, however that, you know, whatever that system looks like. You know, my husband doesn't go to work for free. If I have a job that's not being a mom, that's outside of the house, I don't do that job for free, right? Like, I would go to work and expect to get paid. So this is my kids' work right now, and I want them to work hard on it. So I have no problem at all rewarding them for hard work in school. Oh, there's a woodpecker. So what that means to me is that I can teach my kids hard work gets them a reward, while also teaching them that if they're going to have an attitude problem, and not have a teachable spirit and be unwilling to have their mother teach them things, then they don't get to do school. And if they don't get to do school, then they don't get the reward. So when I'm starting them young, it is made very clear to them that technically inside of our house, school is actually a privilege and not a right. Sorry, I'm so distracted by the wildlife. That woodpecker is huge. Okay, National Geographic's and Learn to Read. Wish I could be filming it all for you. Let me see, what was I talking about? Teaching your kids to read. And getting them to have a teachable spirit. So if they're getting frustrated and it's not fun, we just stop. It usually, honestly guys, it only takes like 1 or 2 days of being like, oh bummer, you didn't fix your attitude, we're not gonna finish for today, we're done. they are so upset by that because they think like they can just cop an attitude and mommy will just continue to be like, that's enough, but no, you give them one chance. If they don't adjust their attitude, then you're done for the day. And one or two maybe times of them missing out on that reward, missing out on that fun time of learning, and the next time you come back to teach them to read again, they will be in the right spot. Now, if they're like totally not interested, something you can do is make it fun with games, especially when they're little, teaching them, the sounds that the letters make, letter identification, all that stuff. There's lots to do, like look on Pinterest, I'm sure other YouTube videos out there that will teach you how to have fun with the basics. But when they're really sitting down to learn to read, I want them to have that right teachable spirit, or it's just not going to work. So the way that this curriculum progresses and the way that I found success with my kids is by first teaching them letter recognition along with the sounds. So this is the very first book. So what I did was bought the Sing, Spell, Read, and Write kit that was for kindergarten and first grade. If you want to see a more extensive review on this curriculum, I have one. I'll put the link below, or you can check up top for it afterwards. I'll link to that video. It has tons of games and resources and activities, and there's a CD with songs and all kinds of really great stuff. I just have the books because I want to show you the progression. Maybe you don't have the budget for it, or you're working with another curriculum. I just want to quickly show you like how we move from thing to thing with teaching my kids to read. So first book is called All Aboard, and literally the entire book is just about 4 pages per letter. You are first learning that monkey says monkey, and you're pointing to the M's and learning monkey. There's an activity that goes along with it, handwriting. They literally tell you at the bottom of every page how to verbally tell the child to form the letter. There's a great teaching CD that comes along with it. But if your child is not even like, okay, when I started this with my daughter Eliza, I could have cared less if she wrote any of the letters. I wanted her to do the copy and paste activity. There was a whole page with a bunch of pictures, and she had to pick out the 4 pictures that started with the sound that letter M makes. I wanted her to know that M says and so they go through every letter of the alphabet. That's all this book is. So you could certainly figure this out at home, but honestly, like the book separately, I think is $12. So with each new child, I've only had to buy a few of the workbooks, and it's been really cost effective for me. A bit of money up front, but then worked out in the long run. So I'll start them with that, and as they're going through that, there's an awesome song that you sing and this chart. So I'm going through, and they're able to sing and point to all the letters by the end of it. So this is the basics. They need to know the sounds. Then after that, they move on to On Track. So my daughter Eliza is 4. She'll be 5 in September, and she's halfway through this book. And she's already reading 3 and 4 letter words. So let's see. What I like about this book is that they have this thing called the Ferris wheel. It is a song, and then there are all these different letters, so it's helping them with the blends. So you'll hold the letter up to it, and you make the sound. So if it's a B, it's ba, 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 and you go the whole way around, and really get a good handle on that. I didn't do that a ton with my son Jackson with the blends. He just kind of picked it up as he learned to read. So if your curriculum doesn't do that a lot, that's okay. That's another thing. They wanted me to spend so many days and time on that Ferris wheel that I was just like, they're bored of it. They don't want to do that anymore. So we just move along, and they slowly pick up the blends and slowly pick up, sorry, distracted. My kids just came back from a walk. They slowly pick up how to form those sounds as they're learning to read. You want to keep with the pace that they are setting for you. And if they're bored of something, find something new and move on. Another reason that I love this book is because it has all kinds of tear out books that the kids get to color. Here's another way I modified. My son, 0 interest in coloring anything at all. My daughter loved the coloring part, so I knew I could sit her down with the coloring, and she would take a while to color every page in, and that gave me some free time. you tear it out, you fold it in half, and you make yourself a book. But with my son, he was like, I don't care, I just want to get it over with. I want to, there's a little track. I don't think I have it here. Let me see. Oh, yes, I do. I love this track. What I did is laminated it and then put little gold stars for every 4th letter. So as they got to the 4th letter, they got to pick a prize out of the box, and that was their reward system for this. That worked out really well. But so they're, slowly progressing in their reading. And then something that I supplemented that worked good, they do slowly give them sight words here, but something with my daughter, Fiona, who's 5, she was finished with this book and ready to read some more, but I didn't feel like she was ready for 1st grade. She just wasn't ready to write as much. And I just felt like I needed to shake it up. So at the library book sale, I found this for, I think I paid $2 for it. Oh my goodness, guys. I would highly recommend to check this out. The pictures in it are absolutely beautiful. And something that I noticed about this one in particular is that it slowly progressed each story, adding a new, like maybe 2 or 3 sight words in, that I would get to that word, tell my daughter what it was, we'd get to it again, tell her what it was, get to it a 3rd or a 4th time, and by the 5th time, because the word was used so many times, she was remembering big sight words like something, or I don't remember what other ones they were, baby, that's not a sight word, but she hadn't learned that a Y says E on the end of words sometimes. So the pictures in this really kept her interested, way more so than, I'll show you, like, this is the kindergarten books. They're cute, right? I think maybe my daughter was just more interested in something that looked a little more realistic, but these are great. My son loved them. Really cute words. They're spaced out well. It's big. These have been awesome. So that's what the kindergarten workbooks look like. There's a whole stack of those. And then that's what the 1st grade workbooks look like. This is the 11th book in this series. So this one, has way more words on the pages. Oh, hey, boo-boo. Way more words on the pages, and I liked that they had a vocabulary review in the beginning. The books went along great with the curriculum, but sometimes we'd get to the vocabulary and my child would see this big long list and be so disinterested in that. So I was like, okay, that's fine. We'll just read this story and we'll do this another time. So, it's not like because you're modifying whatever curriculum you use, your kids aren't going to learn to read. You can always revisit things. We went from 1st grade with Sing, Spell, Read, and Write to a Becca 2nd grade with my son, and I could tell it was like, oh, there's a couple, pieces of the puzzle missing, and we just backtracked. We looked it up. I taught it to him on the spot. If he got to something that the book was assuming he had learned with 1st grade of Becca, but we hadn't learned it here, and I didn't know, I Googled it. Like, guys, you can Google anything. I don't know how moms survived before, but you can Google it. So I really truly didn't know what any of the rules were at all. Oh, let me show that to you. So let's see. Sorry, I kind of went out of order. Let me make sure I don't confuse you. The first book for 1st grade is this. Off we go. I have not used it with anybody. It's a little more dull. Well, okay, I shouldn't say that. I gave it to somebody to play with, but it's the same thing. It's just not color, and a lot of the activities are different. So it's very similar to All Aboard, right? All Aboard is intended for a kindergartner. This is intended for if you did not do kindergarten with Sing, Spell, Read, and Write. They're like supposed to quickly go through this, so your older child could quickly learn what they needed through this. So it's not bad. I just have always taught my kids younger, so they liked the color, and then this was a little bit trickier for their age, cutting in triangles or whatever. So we just use this kind of as fun scrap, but this is technically their first book that they say for 1st grade, unless you did their kindergarten. Then you skip this book and you go to the Raceway book. Love, love, love this book. Again, more songs, and then all the songs are what is teaching you all the rules, and then there's tons of games that go along with this. So when I first taught my son Jackson, they had one game that was, all these different phonics rules, right? And it was in flashcard form, and you were supposed to play Go Fish. Well, I remember for myself literally having to keep these rules right next to me because I was like, I don't remember what two O's with like, well, I didn't even know what that symbol meant. I was like, which is that, the short vowel or the long vowel or what? I had no clue. So it's really cool when you homeschool, you get to learn it along with your kids and you just figure it out. Doesn't mean there might not be days that are frustrating, but you can do this. You can figure this out. And in my opinion, Sing, Spell, Read, and Write has been a great resource for someone that, you know, if you're not a certified teacher, reading specialist, then potentially this would be a really great curriculum for you. So you can do this. You can do this. You can teach your child to read. It's so much fun. Oh my gosh, guys, I remember the moment when all three of my kids that are reading learned to read and read their first words. It's some of the most amazing moments in my mom life. So do it. Take a step and do it. You can do this. All right, guys, be sure to like the video, give it a thumbs up, subscribe if you are new here. Don't forget to check out the video where I show you more of the games and some other homeschool resources. Take a look at my playlists and see what you can find. I hope that you are blessed by this video and you guys have an amazing day. I will see you next time. Thank you.